Today, you can stream full TV coverage of major motorsport events on the internet. 10 years ago, you'd be lucky to get live timing and scoring. 20 years ago, a lot of people still didn't even know what the internet was. And yet it was 27 years ago when I did something completely on a whim that I think was a historic first. Live commentary over the internet from a major motorsport event, maybe even any major sporting event. It was from the 1998 SBK World Superbike Championship United States Grand Prix at Laguna Seca. To understand how this happened and why it happened at that time and not earlier, because I've been using the internet since the mid-1980s and I've been in the media center at Laguna Seca for quite a few years prior to 1998, I've got to give you some history lessons about early internet. You may be aware that in those days we had dial-up internet, but you may not fully understand exactly how that worked. It wasn't like the connection you have now where your device is actually on the internet. It has an IP address and you can transfer files directly to and from your device to remote servers. Dial-up didn't work that way. Your device, or computer in this case, was running a terminal emulator program. A terminal is basically a modem with a monitor and keyboard, no computing power. An internet lab would be full of these 80M3A terminals. So your computer, emulating such a terminal, was dialing into an internet server. That server is where your entire online existence was located. If you shared an IP address with everyone else who used that server. So yeah, if you misbehaved and got your IP banned from somewhere, you got everyone else on your ISP banned as well. So you had to behave yourself a little more in those days. But what this meant is that when you traveled away from home, you couldn't just find a hotspot like today. Hey, you're on the internet. You had to call into that server where your account was back at home. And the thing about telephones back then, you may not realize, is it cost money, both a connection and a per minute charge, to make a telephone call outside of your neighborhood, basically, even within the same area code. Laguna Seca in those days was in the same 408 area code as Santa Cruz and Cupertino, where I had internet accounts. But none of those places could call each other without incurring these local long distance charges. So we print journalists had to use prepaid calling cards to send in our articles from Laguna Seca. Laguna Seca was built inside of a military base, Fort Ord, so it's pretty much long distance to anywhere. So it would have been prohibitively expensive previously for me to log into the internet from there. Not to mention that prior to this, the device I was using was the journalist's venerable friend, the Tandy Model 100. This little laptop has an alphanumeric LCD. It's about 40 characters wide and 6 lines high, so it wouldn't exactly have been easy to do it for anything serious online. But by 1998, a couple things changed. One, the newspaper I was writing for, the Santa Cruz Sentinel, had now provided me with a Windows 95 laptop, so I had a screen more conducive to internet use. Two, Fort Ord had closed, and a university was built on the grounds. Alas, not University of Fort Ord, UFO would have been funny, but California State University, Monterey Bay, SUMB. But with the university comes internet access. In those days, pretty much everybody had internet access through a university. There were only like 5 .com addresses that you could name. And here's where my memory's a little fuzzy. I'm not sure if it was, I think it was, that someone in the Santa Cruz geek community had made an account that they had at this new university. They moved to this university, and they created an account and gave the password to other people in Santa Cruz area, the Santa Cruz geek community, to so that if we traveled to the Monterey area, we'd have a way to get internet access. Either that or the university had set up a guest account that you could log in, and the only thing it could do was telnet. Telnet's a way you could log into one internet server and then connect to a different one, so that you can get your remote access that way. But usually you still have to have an account on one server, so it still didn't help that much when you travel. But anyway, I realized that I could now connect to the internet from the media center at Laguna Seca with a free telephone call. So I did. But not for any journalistic reasons. It was just so I could chat online with friends during downtimes. These big international series, they didn't have many support races, and with so much worldwide media there, you couldn't just walk into a team's paddock and start talking to people. They had their PR folks that would produce sheets of quotes from the personnel, and they would just drop them at your desk after every session. So, other than following any local angles, there's really no need to leave the media center for the whole weekend. So I decided to spend the downtime chatting with my fellow Animaniacs fans. We had gotten to know each other through a Usenet news group. It's sort of like a forum, but not centrally on a central server. So when you posted something, it was only on your ISP until your ISP connected to another ISP, and that your posts have to propagate. So it could take days when you posted something to see a response come in. And so we thought, back in 1995, we thought it'd be fun. We schedule a day and we'll all meet on internet relay chat and be able to communicate in person, or not in person, but in real time. Wouldn't that be fun? And that one day became like 20 years. So I was just chatting with friends. But then the time for the race came, and I thought, I wonder if there's a Superbike channel on this IRC server. For years, I had watched Formula One races on television live, and did like commentary for people who didn't have television coverage of the races. I was doing that the day Senna died, and so I thought, wouldn't be kind of neat to do this actually from the racetrack. And so I looked, and sure enough, there was an active Superbike channel. So I joined it and said, hello from Laguna Seca, I typed. And they said, well, yeah, that's where they're racing. And I said, no, I'm actually at the track. And they said, no, you're not. That's impossible. What, are you using an acoustic modem in a phone booth? Come on, get real. So I pointed out, no, I'm a local journalist, and I'm in the media center. Like, one or two of them said, well, I guess that's plausible. Most of them didn't buy it, though. I think one person actually did leave, though. It's like, just in case, I'm going to leave. I don't want any spoilers. So anyway, the race began, and there was a huge accident at the start. Multiple riders were just unconscious right below us. The media center in those days was outside of turn one, this kink, really high-speed kink, left kink that goes down toward the Andretti hairpin. And there were just multiple riders unconscious right in front of us. I think my eventual article in the newspaper said bodies were strewn across the track or something like that. It was really horrific. I think ultimately only one rider was helicoptered away to the hospital. I don't think it was life-threatening. I think the others that were knocked out still ended up starting the race after the red flag, because concussion protocols in those days were, you all right, mate? You know where you are? You're good to go. So anyway, I was describing this horrific accident on the RSC channel, and the already skeptical people were like, not funny, dude. Could somebody ban this joker? So they thought I was just trolling, to use the modern vernacular. So I don't even remember if I stayed for the rest of the race after that. I think all of them had put me on their ignore list. I do wonder what they thought when they eventually did see their TV coverage, because the World Superbikes didn't have live TV coverage anywhere in the world in those days. So, but I do wonder what they thought when they eventually saw the TV coverage, and what they saw it was exactly as I described. Were they like, holy crap, the guy was legit? Or were they like, oh, that stupid jerk jinxed it? But yeah, so the first attempt at live commentary over the internet from a major motorsport event didn't exactly set the world on fire. It's a bit of a fizzle. But humble beginnings, had to start somewhere, and had no idea back then in 1998 how ubiquitous the internet would become, and just an essential service. Everybody would be doing everything over the internet in those days. It was fun, actually. The only online presence, as far as journalism was concerned, there would be people from like CompuServe or Prodigy, these like small services, and they didn't know anything about racing. Oh my God, people! It was terrible. And so on the Usenet news group, the rec.autos.sport, I would be posting some of my articles that I wrote for the newspaper a few days later. I posted them there, and I said, if we could convince, but my camera froze, sorry, but I said, if we could convince the racetracks and the series that the internet has much greater reach than these closed services like CompuServe or Prodigy, we could totally have somebody who lives near a racetrack be there and cover for the internet, have the internet as a journalistic entity, sort of. And that actually prompted Tom Happinen to found motorsport.com. If you go into the motorsport.com archive, some other early articles, or some of my newspaper articles from the Watsonville Speedway, a little short track that I covered. He had, I supposedly had an account that I could log into this, but I never really pressured him and said, hey, I'm not getting access here. It would have affected my life quite a big deal if I'd have pushed with it and became more involved with motorsport.com. Now that is a gigantic, global motorsports entity. It would have changed my life quite a bit, I guess. But yeah, I was always like, well, if they want me, they'll say something. But yeah, so I kind of spawned motorsport.com too, in a way. But anyway, yeah, the humble beginnings of live internet commentary. Sorry, my camera freezing up there.